How was your weekend? What do you got for the Super Bowl?
Chiefs.
Unfortunately,
You don't want them to repeat?
I don't want either team to win.
Who's your team?
Packers.
Oh yeah, Packers? Are you from Wisconsin?
I'm from Ohio, but
Yeah.
somehow ended up with Packers.
Oh, no, okay. Anyone else? Anything exciting? Anything exciting?
No.
No, come on. Fun. The weather was nice, right? I think it's gonna be relatively nice. Actually, 2024 was the hottest year on record in recorded history in Chicago. 2023 was right behind it. So the climate is actually changing in Chicago. I don't think we'll see those Chicago winters like we used to 10 years ago. Right? Maybe 20 years, Chicago might be like Miami. Right? Okay. Hey, we hit quizzes online. Good? Everybody good? Everybody good? Okay. Making sure we're keeping up. And our little blurbs at the end. Who got something? Raise your hand. Don't be shy. 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
One? All right, so we have 3 people. For the rest of you, try to have something for Thursday. Sounds good? All right. Okay. Yeah, you know, because there's lots going on. There's lots of things you can talk about that's going on with the economy. You know, the tariffs that Trump is putting in, how's that will lower prices, will increase prices, will change behavior. You can talk about things with migrants, how that impacts. There's a lot of changes. The aircraft things going on, right? Will that dissuade people from flying? Anything you could think of that's kind of current events that's going on from your perspective, positive, negative, however you feel. All right, in chapter 5, we're into motivation. Last chapter we saw how people actually learn, right? We condition people. We are all being conditioned, and we are conditioned. We are conditioned to be what others have thought we should be. In terms of the knowledge that they give us, the value systems they give us, what's right, what's wrong, according to how you've been conditioned. So these value systems, and that ultimately create personality types, archetypes, right? Archetypes of consumerism. So in reality, we're all in groups that we really may be described as a persona. A lot of companies, there's another marketing class I teach, and a lot of companies do give personas based off the segmentation of those particular types of people. Right, groups of people who purchase the same stuff, kind of have the same values, maybe same money power, age groups, personality types, traits, etc., etc. Right? All that segmentation is important. It's based on how we're conditioned. Now we're kind of getting into drive or motivation. How do we become motivated? Think about that. Right? There's times where we're completely lazy, completely unmotivated. Right? We're not meeting the expectations of our goals, and then we're like, oh man, I feel depressed, I feel low. But why? I'm not hitting my marks. I just don't have a passion to do this and that anymore, right? How we as marketers can increase that drive, increase motivation. Hey, YouTube has a perfect algorithm based on what you'd be looking at to send you a new video for you to click on because you're motivated to click on it and see what it's about, right? It might build some inspiration in you. You might begin to talk about it with other people. It may cause you to purchase certain items or want to be a certain type of person. Right? Be like, hey, there's a new goal. I want to be this type of person. I want a podcast, right? Right? A podcast is a big thing. Like, well, what kind of Or, you know, what else out there can inspire and motivate us? All right? Will Sexy Red motivate us in some way? Cardi B, Glorilla. We want to wear that big house on our hip like Jaden Smith, right? Kanye's wife, right? All these things out, even out in popular culture, that can motivate us to some degree. All right, so in this chapter, we learned about what's intrinsic or extrinsic motivation, how products can satisfy a range of customer needs, right? This is all about satisfaction. Thinking of the pleasure principle in our mind. Human beings are driven by pleasure, right? Our first brain, right? We kind of have it's divided into about 3 different types of brain. We have a reptilian brain, a mammalian brain, and a neo-mammalian brain, a newer mammalian brain. Our reptilian brain says eat, kill if we need to, drink some water, and drink something that tastes good, sex, reproduction, competition, dominance over other human beings, right? This is primal reptilian brain behavior, because it's all about survival, right? Then we get to mammalian brain, and I relate it to elephants and whales and things like that. They have memories, and they think about stuff. They want to rear their children, right? They protect their children. And then we get to that neo-mammalian brain. Let's build spaceships that go to Mars, and skyscrapers, and bridges, and electric vehicles, and computers and stuff, right? All the fancy things. So we're learning how do we satisfy a range of customer needs, and how setting goals correctly can motivate consumers to strive toward and achieve those goals. How we as marketers can actually try to set goals for consumers in some sort of savvy way. And then we can explain how we evaluate and choose a product depending on our degree of involvement with the product, the marketing message, or the purchase situation. Right? Important, degree of involvement. We want to be involved, meaning that we may want you to do something on our screen. Tap this, feed me, bless you. Sign up at the beginning, get 10% off. Motivate you to sign up and be involved. Oh, now you're involved, you have a tighter relationship, you feel connected, right? How to create connectedness with the product. And then the message or the purchase situation. Hey, push or pull, intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Right, so we have our current state affected by unmet needs and desired state goal, right? So theoretically, right, this is just theoretically, let's say Freud, right, one of our grandfathers of psychology, says that we live by a pleasure principle, right? And that we have a life force, and that life force, this force inside of us, causes us to have a drive, and that drive is what conditions us to act. Right? It's through that drive that we act in order to achieve some desired state of goal. It could be anything. Now we're talking about primal things, and we are talking about sex, food, drinking, water, whatever, anything that tastes good, anything that and that feels good. So you're driven by things that feel good, right? Think about it. So if you're like, hey, if lying avoids you to have an argument or be in an uncomfortable, displeasureful situation, you'll probably lie because it's more pleasurable, right? So we have to think like, hey, it goes pretty deep. It even goes pretty deep, depending on our morals and our ethics and who we are as people. But it is sort of a pleasure principle, right? So we have unmet needs, and we're constantly trying to meet them at all times, which means that we have something that's called anxiety and angst. Anyone familiar with Nietzsche? Friedrich Nietzsche, philosopher? No? Friedrich Nietzsche? German philosopher? Schopenhauer? Kierkegaard? Okay. Rene Descartes? Rene Descartes? Okay, so we have unmet needs at all times, which means that boredom is anxiety. You have an unmet need, so you gotta do something. Think about this, like in every single second of your existence, you need to do something. This unconscious reptilian mind is saying, I'm bored, I look at my phone, let me see what's on Facebook, ooh, I got a notification, what's that email, we gotta do something. And then we're stimulated, we're like, oh, we're back. Okay, we're back, we got attention, right? That's just how it works, right? So we say, hey, well, what are we stimulated by, right? What is stimulating? At what point? Is there a threshold of interest and non-interest in things? Possibly, right? But we say, hey, you have an unmet need that could be a current state, right? And then we got these forces, intrinsic and extrinsic force. Intrinsic means internal, right? Internal states of mind. Hunger is internal. I'm hungry, I have a mental state of hunger, therefore I'm gonna do necessary what it is to eat, but I don't know what I wanna eat yet. Now I gotta think about extrinsic force, okay, McDonald's is closed, but it might hurt my stomach. What else was a substitute? McDonald's is not too far. I don't want to spend too much money, right? All that stuff. But it started out with intrinsic, hey, I'm hungry and I need to eat, right? Blood sugar level. And therefore you have the motivation and drive to begin to start acting, right? So you select a goal and determine a goal level, right? Then you got goals, striving, develop and implement a plan to achieve the goal. Get your desired state. Hey, I'm eating food, I feel wonderful after I eat this delicious meal. I could go back to feeling normal, right? Say me first thing in the morning when I need my coffee, right? I need my coffee like a crack, I'm like a crackhead for coffee, right? I need my coffee every morning. So I go to my drug dealer, right? Go to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. I like Dunkin' Donuts coffee better than Starbucks, but Starbucks got better flavored drinks, right? Cold drinks, I would say. Right? So in the morning I have to go to Dunkin' Donuts, or there's this other spot by my house that I go to get really, really good coffee, right? And I have to get it. It's a real thing. You're like, yeah, I'm not gonna actually feel normal because I've have dependency kind of now on coffee. For all those coffee drinkers, who drinks coffee? Like, do you feel dependent on coffee? Like you cannot not have it in the day, right? So like, hey, we have this drive and motivation to go get coffee because we know how wonderful it makes us feel. The burst of energy, the focus, attention, blah, 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 blah. And I do all the things to get my coffee, right? I meet my desired state. I am satisfied. So we're thinking of how people go from being unsatisfied to satisfied. Think of your unmet goals. You're trying to get an education for a degree. I don't know what you want the degree for. It may be a profession. You're like, hey, it's required for this profession at minimum. I wanted to get my perfect job, right? My ideal job, because my goal is to whatever, make money, buy a car, a condo, house, travel, have money in your pocket, right? And to be probably educated as well too. So you're here, right? You have some unmet needs. The needs haven't been met until you get it, until you get the degree. And then you get the degree, then you get a whole new set of unmet needs. Like, I got the degree, now I need some real money now, right? When you find a job. So that's how it works. So we have things like drive theory. Anyone ever heard of this word, homeostasis? Who could tell us what's homeostasis? If you could just remember anything. All right, so, hey, homeostasis, you were born with a certain blood pressure, a certain glucose level, right? You have your own sympathetic, parasympathetic, things that'll make you have tension. You're triggered, whether you're triggered easy or not, things that will bother you or not. You have your baseline, homeostasis. It's your baseline of normal. It says it's a baseline. At any point in time, things in the environment, or we said intrinsic, extrinsic. You're laying in bed and you think, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get dumped tomorrow. Or, you know, I lied and I gotta tell the truth I'm gonna do that. Or I don't have the money to pay that off. And then you leave homeostasis. Now you got a higher blood pressure, low blood sugar level, you have anxiety, right? You up. You stay up there too long. You crash. You go into depression, right? Some people are always tense, anxiety, always thinking, neurotic, everything's on their mind. And then some people go below homeostasis, which we oftentimes can describe as depression. You're like, oh, why do you sleep so long in a bed? I'm below homeostasis. My levels are low. My mental levels are low, which controls hormones of blah, 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 blah. So your thinking is low, right? Thinking negative things. Unmotivated. So it's like, hey, what can we do about that? How can we change that? Some people engage in, say, retail therapy. Anybody do retail therapy? Like you go shopping just to make yourself feel good? What do you usually go, what do you usually go buy? Or where do you shop when you feel
Sweaters.
Right, you're like, heck, like candy, sweat. You're like, man, a nice hoodie. Like seriously, like if you go and you spot like the perfect hoodie or like shoes or something, you buy it and then you're like, man, I can't wait to wear this. Right? And this looks dope, right? Very simple. You change your mood. You're like, everything else in life sucks, but for right now, I got a cool new hoodie and some cool new kicks, right? Someone else, how do you satisfy it? I think for myself, I will take myself out to eat. Like, you know what, I'm just go somewhere nice by myself with an awesome view. Usually downtown, overlooking the skyline, right at the window. I mean, you gotta have a perfect seat or something. But for me, I'm like, hey, if I'm feeling low, I kind of amp myself up with some retail therapy, with the retail's food, right? I go to a restaurant or something. And then we, you know, going back, we have that unconscious goals, right? And we need to self-regulate. So we say, hey, we are constantly trying to self-regulate. We are constantly trying to get to homeostasis and stay in homeostasis. So anything too far out of homeostasis, we don't feel good. It means we're stressed, have anxiety, and like we say, anxiety could be prescribed as depression too. It's just a low state. So we have things, two types of motivation, right? Things that promotion motivation. Promotion motivation is getting something. We need to get something to add to our lives. Some of us may need motivation for power. Some of us may really feel growing up that we didn't have power. So now we're like, I want power over human beings. I want to control, because maybe you felt like you didn't have the control in your life growing up or something, right? That could be unmet goals or desires of promotion motivation. Promotion motivation is going to school too, right? Because you're trying to add something, you want to add a status. Say you have a bachelor's, you're educated, you went to the university. Say you were an athlete of some sort, you graduated in this, and then you get that job and you're making X amount of dollars, right? It all makes you feel great to add something to your life. Now, it probably won't stop there. You'll continue to add things. Beyond that, you may need more money, you may need a family with children, whatever the new goal is. There's always a new goal. And then we got prevention motivation. Usually to prevent pain or fear, right? We're doing things to prevent something, to get rid of something. But to simply, like we say, we're hungry, we go eat so we could prevent the sense of being hungry. Hungry is anxiety. Can't even think straight when you're hungry, right? Talk to somebody when they're hangry. Like, they don't even want to have a conversation with you. They don't have the answer to anything. Because it's a chaotic mind state. It's anxiety, it's stress, right? So it's preventing something. So we go by to prevent things. Then we got utilitarian and hedonic needs. So some of us buy by pleasure, by the sense that it serves some sort of pleasureful need, and some of us buy by utility. Some of us are maybe a little bit more practical. We're like, we buy because it solved the problem. We didn't necessarily buy it because it made us feel the greatest of all time, right? Or for instant gratification, right? Like junk food or something. Like, well, we kind of buy something we have a problem, we need to solve that problem, and that's it. Wasn't too much emotions into it, right? But we say hedonic consumption, right? Hedonistic is pleasure, right? So hedonic consumption, pleasure consumption is multisensory, right? Hey, we like the way the bed sheets feel. If you get Egyptian cotton, it feels great. And maybe there's nothing better than a good night's sleep. So you want to buy the best pillows, the best comforter because you like to sleep 8 hours or more. You want to feel the most pleasureful doing it, right? Now other people be like, oh, it's not that serious. I just buy because I just need some sheets. It could be cheap. I just need a pillow. I just need this and that. I don't need the thickest mattress or softest, right? But if it's pleasure hedonic, then it's multisensory, right? The fantasy involved, the emotional aspects of consumer interactions with the product, right? Very important, because once again, too, we're more emotional than logical as human beings, right? Because the logic is, they're tied in together. The limbic system and the prefrontal cortex, like they're tied in, but oftentimes the emotions win out, right? Because our thoughts are so tied in with emotions, how it makes us feel. All right, so marketers want to create sort of things that aid to multisensory. Think of Disneyland. Think of going to 3D movies, or the 4D movies, right? Who's been to a 4D movie theater? Anyone? Who knows what a 4D movie theater is? What is it?
It's when you also have like some wind or the seats are moving,
Yeah.
and then you can get into what?
Yeah, you go to a movie theater, you're like, hey, not only I want to watch it and be immersed in the fantasy of this film, and ooh, the sound sounds really great. I also want to feel it. If there's a car crash, ooh, it shakes. I'm in the car with them, right? Oh, there's misty rain. I feel a little mist hitting my face. I'm in the actual movie psychologically, right? In some degree. You're like, hey, you'll pay a lot more for that, right? You'll pay a lot more to have that. You're like, it's a bit much, but you'll pay a lot more. Disneyland, fantasy, right? We're selling fantasies. We love it as adults, and the children love it as well, too. You're selling us characters. The characters take us away from everyday life. Characters have a story, a plot. We could be involved and immersed in the story. It's all fantasy. And it really sort of, Disney, I would say, is probably one of the most influential organizations in terms of influence our behavior. Like, who do we think is the perfect mate for us, right? The perfect man, the perfect woman should be more like Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, blah, 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 right? So yeah, fantasy, multisensory, and emotional aspects to interact with products. Here's one, I give an example. Anyone ever do some skydiving?
Oh, indoor skydiving before.
Indoor. What was it called? Was it the iFly?
Yeah.
You don't like it?
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of cool. Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. It can't beat real skydiving. But say, hey, skydiving, you're selling an experience, something unique, something that involves some courage, some bravery. You need technical information, some instructions on how to do it. You can select, like, I don't want to go to 15,000 feet, take me to do the 5,000. Or do you have one where you can go to 10 or 15,000, right? And then once you're done, when we say anything that's too very shocking, it goes to long-term memory immediately. You will never ever forget about skydiving, ever. You only did it once, doesn't matter, right? It heightens all of the senses, multisensory, it's a vanity, and it caters to emotions. So skydiving is a good sort of example of that. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think we talked about that in other class, but besides my global marketing students, Who has heard of Maslow's? Who could tell me about Maslow's? Right? Hey, Maslow's is used in every class. Well, not every class. I would say every kind of field that you can think of, especially with social sciences. Right? Maslow's is a good sort of model that we can keep in our mind to understand the needs of human beings, right, at different levels. Right? And how to go about the hierarchy of needs. Like we can't move to the next thing unless we meet baseline things. You know what I'm saying? You can't self-transcend yourself if you don't have nothing to eat. If you are not safe, like your neighborhood is unsafe. You might get robbed in-house. You know what I mean? Like you can't get to that unless you satisfy. So things kind of go in order, right? So we want to understand what those orders are. Then we can understand the consumers, right? What the behavior is as such. Think of this example. If you go in any very, very poor neighborhood, right? Self-transcendence is not a huge factor, but it may be, right? Because self-transcendence may be the only way to escape your situation, like your poverty. Like you may have to leave your mind in some sense. You may need more. But what you need in an impoverished neighborhood, you need something to eat. And you hopefully could feel safe. And you may not even have this. So you say, hey, I need something to eat. I can't think about all these self-actualization. Ooh, my garden gives me a sense of peace. Which means if you go to impoverished neighborhoods, there's no concern with eating healthy. That's a concern for people who already got these things in order, right? There's a concern with cheap food, right? Convenience stores, drive-thrus, fast food. Can't afford it, so you just eat it, right? And so you say, hey, that is unfortunate, right? That's unfortunate because, like, okay, now we make sense, right? Diabetes, hypertension in certain communities who are impoverished, it all makes sense, right? Do we blame the person? I don't know. You can't really. No, you probably blame the situation, right? It's not maybe a personal thing, but it's probably for all of us if we're in that situation, we act accordingly. All right, so we say, hey, first you need is physiological things. Need physiological things. Here they're saying, I eat what I grow. So maybe they're talking about people in some sort of rural community or have the ability to buy herbs and plants to grow what they need to eat. Right? This is kind of how they're referencing it, kind of to a garden in peace, but I'll try to kind of distinguish a little bit more. Two, safety. We need safety needs. After we eat, we need to feel safe. Can't even go to sleep properly if you feel that you're going to be murdered or falling asleep or robbed or something. So you need safety, right? So we got police organizations for and try to live in good communities for our children's safety, et cetera, right? Which means there's different needs. Like, oh, okay, let's go back to the impoverished community. What you need? Maybe I should start a business to sell metal bars for the windows. For the front doors. Ooh, that make these people here feel safe. There's a need there, right? Safety and security. Let's get some cameras up, right? Bad neighborhood. And even if you're very wealthy, you're like, let's get some cameras up. Why? Because I got a lot to lose. I'm wealthy with all these fancy schmancy things in my mansion. I ain't gotta protect them now, right? Third, we need social. I can share my produce with others is kind of the tagline here. But we have social needs. Meaning we need to be part of something. We all need to feel that we're part of something. We all have an identity that is involved with membership. We are members of distinct groups, whether we recognize it or not, doesn't matter. Right? We are a social creature. We need people. You will physically, your brain will sort of degenerate if you go live in Montana in a cabin for 3 years. Right? Your brain neurons are connected through social environments and interaction. You need to interact. Okay, so we want to share. So like that's a whole different kind of consumer behavior, right? The ability to share. Food that could be shared, you could say things like tapas, right? Like little small bites, everybody kind of get a portion and try the same kind of foods, right? That could be some of consumer behavior. You're like, hey, you know, a cultural thing might be buffets. Everybody could just go try all the different things, and then go to a different type of place where it's like, no, you order your own particular meal. Not meant to be shared, right? It's meant to be about you. And then we have esteem. I can create something out of beauty as the tagline, but esteem is you actually start to need to feel good about yourself. Because you're like, hey, I may feel good because of others, because I'm involved in this team, I'm on a team. I'm a police in a police brotherhood. I'm a congressman with other congressional people. I'm a racial group, I'm an ethnic group, I'm a religious group member. So important, very important to me, all this stuff. But then you're like, well, what about me? Who am I? You start to think about who truly am I, and then you start to have esteem. Things that deals particularly with you and how you feel about you, not how others feel about you, but how you feel about you. And maybe you start beginning to create unique identity, right? I mean, you see this sometimes with even people say my age, where you start to see them get tattoos. You're like, dude, you waited until that long, why are you getting tattoos? Then, you're like, people may start to have some esteem needs. They're like, yeah, you know what, before I'm, you know, say for me, I'm like, what, like 25 or something, right? Close. But, you're like, hey, you know, you may start to be like, it's about me. I want to service myself, you know, because, oh man, I have to focus on my family. I care so much about what other people think, right? So we're kind of saying that you move up the pyramid, it works from personal sort of security, and then it kind of goes into, ooh, what does society think? Ooh, what other people think? Then it starts to get more into something deeper. Like, okay, now we're at the me part, right? So we got to service the needs of those who are at the me, individual part. And then we get self-actualization. You finally, Tim, I think you kind of touched on the first class, like, you finally know who you are, right? You may come to grips about who you truly are, and then you recognize, you're like, man, all that time I was following somebody else's journey. I didn't even know who I was. I was denying it because the external force, the extrinsic forces were so powerful that they kind of muffled my intrinsic force. Like, I want to be who I think I should be, right? I want to be my greatest self, my ideal self, who I think I should be. Self-actualization. So if we say different even consumer needs, you're like, hey, all right, here, ooh, what looks cool to others? Really fancy clothes? Ooh, what if I got a Ferrari? Ooh, what if I bought this condo, this house? Ooh, what if I got that job? Ooh, everybody's gonna look and say, wow, right? And you're so concerned with others. But then you go and you land like, yeah, you know, I never really liked that house in the first place. That car was okay. I wish I would've got it different. All right, well, why didn't you buy it? Social extrinsic forces. Your style changes. Man, I'm like, you know, I'm embarrassed about how I dressed in high school. Like, why? You did it. Like, yeah, but I was trying to keep up with the trends. Right? I felt forced, social force. All right, and so we say self-actualization. So people in this group, right? Self-actualize. My garden gives me a sense of peace. These people are about harmony. They may have recognized that this comes at a cost, anxiety and stress. Lack of homeostasis. They're getting closer to it. They get the things that fulfill most esteem needs. Funny enough, there's many surveys to show that about 85% of people hate their jobs. right? Yeah, you get different numbers from different studies, but let's just say theoretically 85%. And you just like, even the people who make over $100,000 a year. So imagine making $100,000 a year, and you literally dedicate 60 hours a week to something that you absolutely hate, right? You hate it, why? Because it doesn't, like something's weird, something's off. It doesn't satisfy my esteem. It doesn't give me harmony. I feel like the job doesn't make me impact people, right? It could be some random job on the keyboard, like this doesn't, I'm not touching a person's life. I'm not changing nothing about their life. They'll never ever know who I am in the first place, right? Even if you're paying $100,000, something might start to hit you to be like, for the amount of hours and work that I put in, I don't know that satisfy my esteem. And so some people may say, I'm gonna leave a $100,000 job, get a $60,000 job, and then their friends, their social, will say, oh, you're crazy, that's stupid. You know, how are you gonna afford to go to Bora Bora or wherever? And you're like, it doesn't matter, I don't need to do all that. I realized that I'm more okay having my own little garden. Right, and then at the top, we reach the ultimate pinnacle, and most people don't reach it, right? It's not something that we all reach. It's something that we maybe hope that we could reach. It's something where it transcends the self. You're like, oh, it's not about me. It ain't really about me. Like, well, what's it about? It ain't about you. Like, I don't know, it's about nature, it's about an afterlife, it's about God, it's about a spiritual force, it's about giving to others, helping other people, right? You're like, oh, it wasn't about getting, it was about giving. Right? The getting was okay temporarily, but the giving and making people smile, making people like feel good, or helping somebody out of a bad situation, you're like, man, that feels way more powerful than another new car that I won't really care about in 3 months, right? So some people get that. Other people may still kind of stay in different sort of layers within the pyramid, right? So how do different consumer needs? Self-transcendence. So we say, hey, when we go to the churches and we see the older people who may have made all the money in the world, now you're like, whoa, why are they going to church? Why are they going to temple? Why are they going to synagogue? Why are they going to wherever? Why are they doing yoga? Why are they going hiking out in the mountains? Spiritual things, doesn't need to be organized religion. Like, hey, they have understood the cycle of life in the garden. They've self-transcended. There's an otherness out there, outside of the me. Right? There's something bigger to the picture. And we cater to them too, right? So the churches need things, the synagogues need stuff for yoga mats, hiking gear. Like, oh yeah, it's an entire different market. Hell, you gotta buy this cool bag though. Now that you self-transcended, make sure you use the best hiking bag, the best hiking boots, etc. Right? But only when we kind of self-transcended. Make sense? Hey, how needy are you? Individual differences in motivation. Some of us are motivated, and others depend on our situation, right? You're really poor, you may be extremely determined and motivated to get out of poverty, right? To like reach the top, to make sure that this don't ever happen again for your children or for your generation. So we have things like terror management theory, right? We say some people are just trying to manage the terror, right? Some people are in dire situations of fear, right? That drives their motivation. An example would be, we could pick anywhere and say, hey, there's a civil war in Congo. Dire situation of fear, so how do I manage my terror? I join the powerful group that's doing the killing so that I don't get killed. Well, hence why we would all probably be Nazis in Nazi Germany. Right? It sounds bad, and it is bad. But it's probably fundamentally true. Because once again, we said the pleasure principle, the number one thing was about survival. Right? And survival overrides all things. Don't matter how bad or lies or That is secondary, right? Survival is number one. You may not be willing to give your life up for some other people who don't mean that much to you. Okay? Hence why, we always think about like in the mob or in gangs or criminal behavior of snitches. And like, I'm always fascinated how people like, oh, the rat, right? That person's a rat, they're a snitch. You're like, what do you think people would be? Like, I never, that one always, I'm like, you really think people would say, I'll do 15 years in prison just to like not tell on you? We already understand that is about primal survival behavior. What do you think? Can't believe you ratted, right? So think about that. If we probably in our society, it's probably better to have a snitch community than a non-snitch community. Non-snitch community, it keeps the negative culture perpetuated, right? If everybody's snitching, you probably won't commit the crimes. Can't trust nobody, right? It probably will stop the crimes very quickly, a lot of them. Probably stop a lot of crimes. You're like, hey, we give everybody $5,000 for each time you tell on the criminal, right? The money. That self-preservation would prevail. Okay, so we have things like autonomy, self-determination theory, a little bit different, right? Autonomy, relatedness, competence, specific needs. We have need to belong, need for power, need for uniqueness, right? We want to be unique and the same at the same time. Remember we said we like memberships, we like our groups, our ethnic groups, we identify with religious groups, you being a student, but you probably want to be unique in that group. You want a need for uniqueness, kind of stand out within your own group. And then we have things like a fresh start mindset. Organizations that recruit members appeal to our need for relatedness with others as well as self-fulfillment, right? Companies recruiting appeal to our needs to relate with others as well as being individuals. All right, so here's a quick question for you. You could think about it in your little groups, right? One group, 2, 3, 4. Give an example when you had a need for affiliation, for power, or uniqueness, right? Give me an example. Think of maybe an example of each person. Think of some examples that you had where you had a need to be affiliation, or need for power, or uniqueness. Or even if you're moving towards that, like if that's a desire for yourself at some point. So I give you about 4 minutes to talk about that with your groups, starting now. Any thoughts? The need to belong, the need to be affiliated, the need for power, or the need to be unique. You can think of anything, things that you bought along the way, right, to stand out, things you may have bought to be affiliated with others, or things that maybe gave you some sense of status or power over others. Or even an activity here, we're looking at, right, gardening. Okay. No, it's not the most in-depth question, but what are some of your thoughts? Raise your hand. Tim, anything? This question?
So, at all of my jobs, I've kind of worked to become like a part of the group, like not to be an outsider, because when you first show up, you're naturally an outsider, and you have to work your way in, get to know the people.
What kind of work?
So I've worked at a lot of like food places. I've worked at a pizza shop for about 4 years, and here on campus I work at public safety.
Oh yeah, I forgot you did, okay. So, being a team player for the sake of keeping balance and harmony and not being, I guess, abrasive to the mindset, because of culture, right? Being a team player to keep the peace, right? Not necessarily needing to stand out too much. Anyone else? Yes.
I guess you could say like during the college process, I had like the need for like being on the sports team. So
Yeah, you're like, yeah, I want to be affiliated with my teammates, what the team represents, the sport itself, and it gives me some sort of identity, right? And you're like, hey, if we don't work together well, we lose, right? There's no I in team. Well, as Michael Jordan said, there's an I in win, right? Anyone else? What about anything with power? Where you had a need for power, anyone? Anyone like bullying, like you experienced bullying growing up or anything? You want to change that or something? No? You know, as a kid, it was pretty bad. Yeah, I was a bully as a kid, like a big time bully. But only because I could, you know, I was always highly psychological. As a kid, I look at everybody, see self-esteem issues, body language, insecurities. Like I could see it. I could see through people really quickly, even as like a 5-year-old, like kindergarten, first grade. And yeah, obviously, I was always like cracking jokes or picking on people or stuff like that. But then I kind of had to address. I'm like, man, why do I want this power over people to some degree? And I think it's because I was the youngest out of 11 children that I probably just felt way too privileged that I could get away with murder because I had older brothers and sisters who protected me. So I felt too protected by being the baby with these older siblings. So yeah, maybe that was my need for power. I think the flip side was that I saw that people were so triggered emotionally by anything, like their self-esteem or insecurity issues. I'm like, I never want to be like that. I want to be a person who can care less with anybody, right? And so in some way, I kind of, I think like in some sadistic way, I was trying to like condition people to not have those insecurities, but I'm like, it doesn't work that way, right? I changed, you know, as a therapist, a psychologist, I'm all about helping people. But I'm like, they actually may have relatedness. You know, I'm like, now I'm about helping people get rid of insecurity, self-esteem, psychological issues, stuff, right? Giving back. So maybe I flipped it in some way, but in some need for some sort of power. Okay, let's see. Discuss how setting goals correctly can motivate consumers to strive toward to achieve those goals. Let me think. Do we have any? Could you come up with any good example? Here, like here, what do they have? Antibacterial. So we got cleaners here, right? So think of the different offerings, say for cleaning products, detergents, even things like shampoos. How do shampoo manufacturers, right, kind of go about setting goals for people or helping them strive towards achieving goals? Like, how do they segment their products? How do they segment shampoos or cleaning products to help customers achieve a goal or strive for them to get to achieve a goal? Think about that, talk about that with your groups for about 3 minutes. So simply put, like, how do manufacturers of shampoos or cleaning products kind of create motivation to strive to achieve goals, right? how do they go about doing it? Like, what do they offer in terms of different types of shampoos and cleaning products, right? The different types. I give you 3 minutes to come up with something. Give one example at least.
Commercial, you see people with this like beautiful luscious face, and it kind of makes you think, what if I could be that person? If I could look like that,
I mean, think of it too. Literally, you like, hey, Dove comes out has like 50 things, different types of shampoos for different reasons. What are the reasons? Like, how do they put on the label? Use this for this particular reason to clean your hair. Think of it. Because we don't all have the same hair type. We don't all have the same hair goals. Some of us go to the salon. Some of us color our hair. Some of us just want it quickly clean. We could care less. Some of us need a conditioner. We need this. We need that. Like, think of some examples of that. Yeah.
It'd be as simple as like the brand, like catchphrase too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know how Nike uses it'd be like that.
Yeah, you can absolutely say it's a tagline or a saying, a phrase, or something to motivate people. Yeah, absolutely. But also think even with Nike, kind of like, well, that we're segmenting Nike, segmented by sports and activities. You got running shoes, you got walking shoes, you got basketball shoes, baseball shoes, casual shoes, unique colorways, special edition, you got Jordans, right? How
So it's
satisfy the needs of, how do they go about satisfying the needs of each individual sort of category of people? All right, let's see, what did we come up with? What do you think over here? Anything?
So there's like the different types of like shampoos that all go for like different types of hair.
Yeah.
So you want to like market like, hey, this is for this type of hair. If you have that, you want to achieve that goal to make that hair as healthy as possible. Buy this shampoo.
Yeah, you're like, hey, oh man, we have shampoo for curly hair. Ooh, who is marketing to for that? People who got curly hair, right? People with straight hair, people who just get color treatments, right? You're like, oh, we may not be able to use the same shampoo. You might have to use one specifically for color treated hair. You could think of things like, oh, people get braids, people get dreadlocks, so people get this and that. All different types of hair to solve a need, right? And under need, you still need to wash your hair, but your needs are different than other people, right? Because you got different types of hair with different situations going on. And then there's other people who may not care, right? Dude, I don't care. I just want my hair clean. What's the cheapest shampoo? That's it. I don't look for anything. Or some people say, I want fragrance. I want non-fragrance. Maybe I think the fragrance is harmful. Oh, I want organic, right? Made from eucalyptus plants and stuff like that, right? And other people I can care less. So like, yeah, it could be dividing the pie a million ways. And that's really the masterful sort of strategy. Like, hey, we make shampoo. Now, our innovation is to divide shampoo into 1,000 categories of shampoo for every single type of person imaginable, right? Genius. That's why Dove for men, Dove for women. Like, wait, hold on. Look at that regular Dove for men and women. It's the same ingredient. Like, what do you mean Dove for men and women? You guys just want to have a different package and not go with the women's section. Interesting. So we got psychological things going on, right? It don't even matter. Make the package gray color and look masculine, cool, right? Give it to the women floral patterns and flowers and blah 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 blah. Right? We all get different types of needs. Over here. Anything? Or did I just kind of like say everything? Anything over here?
We look, we did with the like shampoo. Like even when I'm with my dad, like he's bald by the way. He goes in the store and he's like, just use Head and Shoulders. I can't use Head and Shoulders because like it makes scalp dry.
Yeah,
So
it dries out.
I get lots of like shampoo and conditioner that's catered to like locks and it's like only used on locks.
Yeah,
and
you
stuff
need to
like
keep your hair moisturized, right? That's like, okay, I can care less, right? Like,
that. He just grabbed the head shoulders and go. Like,
Yeah,
boom, I got
and it could just be what he's used to, right? A lot of times, we kind of buy what we used to. If we're using it in high school, we might use it as an adult, right? Because we just have an affinity for the product. Okay, I think we're gonna end here so we can have a few people come up and talk. So we have the 3 people. Who's over here? Tim, one. Yeah. Okay, well maybe we can start here. Yeah, here, I'll give you the connect. Oh, okay. Well, for anyone that needs, this is right here.
So something that I noticed becoming pretty common right now is like chatbots, and I think that that's kind of, even though it might not seem at first like a marketing thing, like the way that people interact with customer service can be used for marketing, because it'll kind of determine whether or not people speak good or bad about the company. And so I've been seeing a lot of like AI chatbots popping up recently, like not just for like when there's like an issue, like yeah, you'll see it when there's like an issue that comes up, but also when you first go into a website, you'll see that even like some colleges I've seen have like a chatbot that's like here to help you find something. You see it on a lot of like purchasing websites, and I think that's something that's gonna become more and more common. Is like AI just being used as like a form of marketing, as like kind of like a personal marketer inside of like websites.
It's like almost having like a personal assistant to help you navigate through the website.
Yeah.
What's the point of this? You think what the point is?
I think the point is just to kind of make it easier for people to find stuff. It's like instead of going up to the search bar
Yeah.
and having to scroll through results, then you can just tell it and it'll give you like exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And it just makes it easier to go through the website, and like every little amount that the customers' lives are made easier is kind of like good for the company, because it just makes them come off better.
Right, so it gives you more specific, detailed, catered information, as opposed to searching and you might find a link to something and click that and keep navigating. So it saves time.
Yeah, it saves time, kind of like also recommends content that
Yeah.
maybe you wouldn't have known you wanted otherwise. That's something I see it do a lot. It's like maybe you're also interested in this. And it also sometimes will ask you like questions like, oh, what's your age, what's your gender, so kind of collecting information on you as well.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. So so do you think this is gonna like revolutionize kind of
I think
even how we interact with websites and platforms and stuff like that?
I think it's like half of websites are doing it now. I think it'll get more and more common,
Yeah.
like as they get better with the like AI technology.
Yeah, think of even Google, right? You used to search on Google and then give you like some generic answer. Now it gives you the AI generated answer, right? And you're like, whoa, AI generated answer answered every question that I was gonna ask about this thing, right? So like the AI really is a great benefit because it's really skips a lot of the steps, right?
Yeah.
All right, excellent, thank you. Yeah, you may need to, switch off the adapter.
Alright, so I was reading an article earlier today about how PepsiCo's profits are down. They had missed their fourth quarter goals last year. They mentioned how soda and more general like snack products are not being bought nearly as much. And so they're doing a lot of product overhauls. In my global marketing class earlier today, I mentioned how Mountain Dew was rebranding part of PepsiCo. And so I think we're seeing a shift in consumer demand where more health-centered products are becoming more popular. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see PepsiCo shift towards that. And one of the things I mentioned about Mountain Dew earlier was how they have a focus on like the mountains in their new rebranding and kind of that like outdoorsy nature-y aspect of things.
Do you have that image quickly from the first class?
I don't have it quickly
Okay.
to bring up. But
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Mountain Dew used to have, I don't know, can you Google it really quick? Mountain Dew new logo or something.
Let's see. So that's the image I had earlier.
Yeah, so, alright, so the original, the older sort of logo was plain with just the Mountain Dew in it. It had nothing to show about mountains, nothing to show about dew, right? But so that one at the far right on the bottom is kind of the newer logo where they're like, oh, Mountain Dew is about nature and mountains and greenery and all of that, which is like for us in this culture, like, hey, we want to be health conscious and back with nature and organic and stuff like that. So this is their attempt to kind of change our mental concept of Mountain Dew when we see the logo and think of maybe it being quasi still somewhat about being outside the mountains or something. All right, excellent, thank you. On a side note, PepsiCo owns Gatorade, Mountain Dew, Lipton, Tostitos, Sierra Mist Cheetos, Naked Juice, Ruffles, 7-Up, Lay's, Doritos, Brisk, and a bunch of others, even Rice and Roll too. So they own quite a bit of brands. Oh yeah, on another side note, if you buy chilled Starbucks drinks, like the ones that's at the gas stations or the convenience stores, Pepsi owns those drinks, those Starbucks drinks.
Something I noticed in consumer behavior was the increase of environmental sustainability. So I've been seeing that there's a growing trend of people prioritizing environmentally friendly products to be able to help the environment more, things like that. There's also an increased awareness about the environmental and social impacts of like what their purchases can be, like if there's a brand that uses a lot of carbon kind of, and like it brings in pollution. They're starting to get more aware of that, and they're like, oh, I kind of want to help the environment, so I'm going to purchase more environmentally friendly products. And there's also an increase in brand loyalty to those who are actively promoting sustainable products. So like things like Levi's, I think, and Beyond Meat.
Alright, excellent. And so the companies are kind of going with the flow of that. Everybody's concerned about environmental awareness and they're kind of having initiatives to kind of go along with that. Hey, which kind of shows you like, hey, oftentimes when you see, I give you for example, right, with the diversity, equity, inclusion stuff, the DEI stuff, right? Obviously, there's a big political thing people are talking about right now, but we immediately saw that once Biden left office, McDonald's and a bunch, all these other companies like no longer have the initiative, Facebook, right? So you're kind of like, well, did you do it in the first place because you cared? Like, no. You did it in the first place because it was socio-political thing, right? We wanted to go with what the masses was, that the master ideology was at that time. New administration come on, now we got a different mindset, so the corporations start swinging towards that. social sort of aspect. Right, so sometimes we think that companies care, like they care about money, but then they'll just navigate towards whatever's going on within the culture at the time. All right, excellent. Thank you very much. For the rest of you who didn't present today, have something on Thursday to present, and we'll pick this back up, motivation on Thursday. Have a great day, everyone.